Hello, this is Mac the Knife 801. Welcome to my second knife review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Benchmade 375 Adamas blade. On the table in front of me you'll see that I have a Benchmade 375 Adamas fixed blade, and I also, for comparison purposes, have a Benchmade 275 Adamas folder. The main difference between these two knives is obviously you have one as a fixed blade and one as a folding option. The fixed blade will come in at about 4.2 inches in blade length and just over 9 inches in overall length, and the folder will come in with a 3.8 inch blade and just about 8.8 inches in overall length. So overall size, they're very similar. As you can see on the camera, they're very similar to overall length and in blade length. The other main difference you're going to see is the fixed blade version comes with, along the top of the spine, a very aggressive saw-like serration. Okay, so if you wanted to take a look at the two knives together, for those who are curious just how they look sized up next to each other, you'll notice that the 375 is just a little bit longer in overall length. The other little difference you'll notice is that the fixed blade is a little bit lighter actually than the folder by a few ounces, mainly because the handle on the folder is just such a beefy overbuilt type handle with the axis lock mechanism. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 275 off to the side here, and we're going to jump right in and talk a little bit more about the 375 fixed blade version. Now, first off, this blade comes in both black coated and in a tan coated. Same with the sheath. The sheath you can get in black or in tan color for either knife. So you can mix and match a black blade, a tan sheath, black on black like I have here, or a tan blade with a tan sheath, and so on. You'll notice that the blade does arrive skeletonized, so it has no handle scales out of the box. It comes completely naked. It comes with a length of paracord, a tan paracord, that is enough paracord to actually wrap the entire handle. There is an instructional video on how to wrap it, how I have it here, on Benchmade's website, and you can also find it on YouTube and other places on YouTube on how to wrap a knife handle like this here. I went ahead and changed the handle, the wrapping color, to a green and black with a reflective material in it. So you'll see that, or if I zoom in here, that it's a D2 steel, and actually these are both D2 steels, and D2 is a tool steel, so it's a hard use type steel that's supposed to maintain its edge longer, but has a history of being a little harder to sharpen. Personally, I didn't have much issue sharpening this blade at all, and that's just my personal experience, so your mileage may vary there. We're working down the handle. You'll see that there's some jimping here, nice thumb ramp of jimping along the top, and also a little bit of jimping right in here on your finger guard. So you put this knife in hand, you actually get a real good purchase. The knife wrapped, actually, considering it's a skeletonized handle, fits very well in my hand. It has a really good balance, just a really good overall feel. Moving down the blade, you'll see that we've talked about this saw-like serration across the top of the blade. It's really very aggressive. It's not really your typical serration you're going to find on most normal knives. It's really deep saw teeth and so on. This is a drop point blade. The very tip of the drop point, about maybe 3/4 of an inch here, is actually also sharpened. It's not quite as sharp as the blade itself, but it is actually sharp, so it is a sharpened spear point here on the drop point. You've got a nice gentle sweep here in the blade, which is a blade shape that I really prefer on most of my fixed blade knives. It arrives out of the box extremely sharp, as you would expect from a knife around $100 price point. So that's the knife in a nutshell. One of the criticisms I have with this knife, or one of the things I don't really care for actually, is this serration across the top here. And that's just about the only thing I don't like about this knife. And you ask, well, why if you don't like that serration would you buy the knife? Well, actually, it's a good question. Both of these knives looked kind of cool to me, for one, and for two, the purchase of these knives, a portion of the proceeds Benchmade gives to the Ranger Assistance Foundation, which is a real good charity. So I kind of had a second motive to purchasing these, that some of the proceeds were going to that charity and so on. So we're talking about these serrations. Personally, I would love it about 100 times more if this knife had just a regular flat spine. One that I could use as a wilderness blade. I could thump on it, I could baton with it, I could do all sorts of different tasks with it and not have to worry about getting hooked up on these saw-like serrations. These serrations are actually so deep that just about the only thing you're going to use it for is cutting through nylon strapping, maybe, or maybe just sawing through branches with it. You're going to probably have a better option to do those, hopefully, on your person, either a saw, an axe, or so on, rather than trying to physically saw with this little knife. So that's just a personal preference. I would have preferred this to be completely plain edge, no serrations whatsoever. So I'll go ahead and put that down. Now, what else you get with it is, and we talked about the different colors it comes in, a really nice sheath. Now this looks like a Kydex sheath with the rivet holes and the screws and so on, but it actually is a plastic molded sheath, Benchmade's plastic molded sheath. It comes with all the hardware for belt mounting. This is called a teklok, and if you're not familiar with the teklok, it opens up. It's a belt, basically a belt loop that opens up and can be adjusted with these two little bars here. You can adjust to fit different size belts, which is really actually very nice. And you can go ahead and snap it in over your belt, and it has its own little latch locking mechanism there. Now you take the knife and you put it into its sheath. You get a nice positive click. You heard that click? The knife all on its own will sit in this sheath very snugly. A lot of attention to detail was put into the sheath. There's a nice little thumb ramp right here where if you push your thumb just on that thumb ramp and pull out with your hand, the knife pops right out. And that's a nice little detail, one of those details that the higher end knife manufacturers will pay attention to, so that you're not just sitting here trying to pull the knife out all willy-nilly, and you actually have this nice little thumb ramp here on the sheath to allow you to pull the knife blade out very smoothly. Now I noticed online that a few people had been complaining that the knife was wiggling around inside of the molded sheath, and they were getting it clinking around in here a little bit. If that's an issue for you with this knife, I think if you were to go ahead and adjust, there's a little tension screw right here. You can adjust this screw to make this knife fit a little bit more snugly inside of the sheath. And as if it wasn't overbuilt enough, you also get a piece of elastic strap that's buttoned on the back and on the front, so you can take it completely off if you want, or you can leave it on. The strap pulls around the handle of the knife and it snaps right in place in front there. So if you really wanted to lock this knife in place and not have any worry about it coming out, you can go ahead and snap it in that way, and it's not going anywhere. Well, it's not going to really go anywhere regardless, but if you're one of those folks that's worried, or if you're actually an airborne ranger, I guess, you're worried about this knife popping out midair, you're going to go ahead and snap that in there, hold it right into place. Now with the teklok, it doesn't have to be mounted this way. You'll see that I have it mounted vertically for my right hand carry. If I had it on the belt, I could have it left hand carry. I could turn the actual teklok vertical and have the blade horizontal, how I have it here, and then carry it sideways on my belt as well. So you get a lot of options with the teklok and the sheath. Really, really very nice sheath, and for about $100, this knife really isn't too bad of a value. Get rid of that saw-like serration across the top, and I would probably have at least 2 of these, just because I think they're that cool. Anyway, this has been my second knife review. If you have any comments or questions or criticisms, feel free to go ahead and leave them in the comments. Thanks, guys.